Joe here. Um, the guy who's unsure of what we're doing today. There's no fights, but I just got a message from Carl. I just pulling it up here. Um, hey Joe, you can either do a PFL review, talk about Ryan Garcia because he fought last night, or review Roadhouse, the movie. I didn't watch PFL. I'll be honest. I was busy. I'm actually tired of Ryan Garcia. So why not? I mean, I'm actually a big movie buff. Dare I say, even a film snob. So, I mean, I don't know. It can't be that bad.
2 hours later.
Um, enough talk. Let's get to the film, I guess. Like, this movie sucks. Let's be honest. This is me. I have an opinion. You guys have an opinion. You guys can totally like it. My tastes are different to your tastes, especially when it comes to other media. There's no such thing as like a universe. Like we mostly talk MMA here, so there's no such thing as like a universal rule for what makes a good fight. I think 99.9% of people are gonna say that like last week's Holloway Justin Gaethje was like a great fight. I'm sure, I think 99.9% of us are gonna say that, especially with that finish in mind, right? But that doesn't mean it's like objective. And it's even more skewed when it comes to the other media we consume. Like my three favorite movies of all time are In Bruges, which is a movie. It's an Irish film with Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Ray Fiennes. It's my favorite movie of all time. I think it's the best film ever made. Personally, I'm kind of a hot take there personally, but I have like an argument for it. And then there's number two is John Carpenter's The Thing. Horror is my favorite genre in anything, even though I'd say 97% of horror is kind of bad. The 3% that's great is like just untouchable filmmaking, and big Dead Space fan, Resident Evil fan. Third is Logan. I think Logan's slightly over No Country for Old Men for me. No Country for Old Men's probably better, but I personally like Logan more. Big superhero fan, big dork, big nerd. Hence the tattoo of a video game on my chest. So like we all got. I'm kind of a film snob. I want to like feel something. I want to think about like the subject matter and themes and motifs behind something after I watch it. Like it's really funny talking with my mom about The Sopranos, which is our favorite show of all time. I talk about the existential horror of the show and all these hidden messages and themes in it, and she likes how funny the show is, which is great. Like we both get something different out of it, even though I do love that part of the show as well because I love comedies. But I'm saying all this now because I'm gonna be honest. I hated this movie. As the more I got into it, I was like, I think I hate this movie. And by the time it ended, I went, yeah, I'm like 99% sure I hate this movie. I've watched it twice because I watched it a couple weeks ago when I wasn't feeling too hot. I was just like, I'll just throw it on. And then I watched it last night to kind of refresh myself, prepping for this video because I knew we were going to have to do this ahead of time. Or knew we were not have to, but I knew we were going to do it ahead of time. It was kind of a joke idea I pitched to Carl. And we were like, let's run with it. So, yeah, I have like a bunch of notes here. And I'm going to be really careful about like no spoilers because some people haven't seen it. It's on Amazon. At least here in the US, it was on Amazon. Jake Gyllenhaal in it. Daniela. My brain wants to. I always forget her last name. It's with an M. I always forget her last name. I feel horrible, but she's Ratcatcher 2 in my opinion, very, very, very good. The superior Suicide Squad movie, the one with James Gunn and John Cena, Idris Elba. The movie's fantastic, and she's like the heart and soul of that team. So, like, it's fantastic. She's fantastic in that movie. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. Big Jake Gyllenhaal fan, unironically. I love his take on Mysterio. I thought that was really fun. I love Nightcrawler is like one of my favorite movies ever. Like Nightcrawler, I go, like, dude, you should be the Joker. Like, what are you doing? Like, you'd be a perfect Joker of like him and Nightcrawler. It's amazing. Enemy's another movie I really like. But probably my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie ever is probably Prisoners, with him, Hugh Jackman, Terrence Howard, Paul Dano. Just a masterpiece of a movie for me, right? Like, that's one of the best movies of all time. It's by the guy who did Dune and Dune 2. So, like that's those movies are catching hot. So maybe you can go check out. I think it's his first like major feature film was Prisoners. So big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. Conor's in it. We all know I'm a Conor hater, but like, why not give him a chance here? Like, to me, it'd be real. I'm gonna judge him as an actor, not as a fighter. I got some jokes here in my review about Conor being there, but hey, man, like, I'm gonna judge him based on a first-time actor, right? Like, because that's what he is. It'd be real unfair of me to judge an MMA fighter who goes into like professional wrestling with no experience or anything like that, and I gotta judge him off of it, right? Like, judge him comparatively to the rest of the people like in WWE and AEW, and I guess that's like the easiest thing I can think of off the top of my head. So I'm not gonna judge Conor on the caliber of like Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm gonna judge him based on a first time actor. That's probably Carl right now telling me like, hey, scrap this. This is a bad idea. We don't need any more Conor slander on this video. Too bad. We're doing it. So, non-spoiler review. The original, it's a remake of the 1989 Patrick Swayze movie, which I've seen, I think, once or twice in my life, and I remember really liking it. There's a couple scenes in it I just go, oh, it's sick. It's also Terry Funk's in it. It's sick. Like, it's like a Roadhouse. It gives me like Krusty Krab vibes, this Roadhouse. Like, if anyone's a SpongeBob fan growing up, the layout of it kind of reminds me of the Krusty Krab a bit. With its like wide in the centers, like where the service is, and then here, like in front of that and on the sides of it are like where all the customers are, and it's just horrid. Mostly because I kept thinking it's horrid because I just kept thinking of the Krusty Krab, just kept thinking of the Krusty Krab. And they ask Elwood Dalton, who is a former middleweight kind of champion, not really. He was a middleweight title challenger in the UFC, who got into a fight with Jay Haran, who was his friend. He started talking smack, slapped him at the weigh-ins, talking a lot of stuff, and then gets mad in the fight and goes, "You just sees red, bro," and he kills him. Like, oh my god, like, I hate that trope of like, man, I just saw white, I just saw red, and I just, the beast inside of me came out, man. Like, get out of here with that. Get out of here with that crap. I'm trying not to cuss because I'm getting angry. Not angry, getting annoyed. Yeah, Post Malone's in it for like a minute. He shows up like as a cameo. Don't like his music, but I like the person, so thumbs up. I always kind of like seeing him. Big Magic the Gathering fan. I love Magic the Gathering, so he's cool in my book. They had like a weird pit fight in it, which I assume is what Hollywood thinks feeder leagues to the UFC are. There's a stabbing. Jake Gyllenhaal gets stabbed like really early on. And he's like really casual about it, and it's just awkward. They were trying to make him seem like a mega badass, and I was just like, this is awkward. Like, this isn't good. There was an attempt of something in this movie very early on, for probably like first 5 minutes in, and the character half-asses it, and the movie half-asses it, and the tone of that movie, just of that scene and the whole movie, makes zero sense, and I hate that scene with every ounce of my being. It was awful. It's probably the worst scene in the movie. There's a lot of bad scenes in my opinion in this movie. There's a lot of cussing for the sake of cussing. I guess they gotta get the most out of their R rating. Conor is in the movie. He's one of the main villains. Fun thing, he drives like John Jones at least twice in this movie in the fun little homage. I can think of 2 moments where I went, oh man, just eye poke a guy? Like, and you're just completing this cosplay here. In the movie, how he acts, he's always bowed up. Yeah. The entire time. It's awful. He is clearly a little high off of I don't know what. At least his character is always acting like it. I don't know if that's just how he acts, or if how he was, or if that's how the character was, but, clearly mega roided up. he is mega roided up. Like, you can tell by his facial structure. We've been saying this for a long time, but in this movie, it's very apparent and hard to take my eyes off of as an MMA fan. If he was like a regular actor, I'd be like, oh, that's just like a roided up guy, whatever, sure. But as an MMA fan, knowing Conor from MMA, it's like, oh, it's just so noticeable. It's weird. It's maybe that's the hater in me. Maybe you guys can tell me. And he has some of the worst line deliveries in this movie, full of awkward line deliveries. He's not an actor, and so I gotta give him a pass, but this isn't a great first attempt. I think he would actually be a great mute muscle for a villain or something, maybe. Because his facial thing is like, it's kind of just one tone. And it could be a fun kind of psychopathic mute muscle for a villain. They do CGI him grappling, which I found to be hilarious. He just refuses to even grapple in a movie. The camera work, the cinematography is so awful. Oh, like, it does this thing where it's like, me and this dude are like, going at it, and the camera is like, like going all around. It's awful. It's disorienting. It's bad. It's at least like, it gives the impression that it's not edited. It's like, oh, it's in one shot. Isn't that cool? You get all these dynamic things. And it just isn't good. Because of like how it's moving around, that they're like, the fights don't feel real. They don't feel like very well done, in my opinion. I like my fights where I can clearly see both fighters. Even if there is some cuts here and there, if it's a one shot, fantastic. If not, hey, all right, whatever. So it's pretty bad. But let's say you're in the movie, you're immersed, you're loving it, like, you're really enjoying it or whatever, like, you're just into it. And there's a moment, though, that I guarantee is going to snap you out of it if you're an MMA fan. Conor actually defends a rear naked choke successfully, and that instantly will let you know that this movie is fictional. This isn't a documentary. Yeah, man, I hated this movie. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, God, it wasn't that fun. There was a couple things in it I liked. One of the thug characters in it, I don't know his name. I think his name is Arthur or Arturo, his first name, the actor. But he was in like The Menu, is what I always think of him in. And he was like a thug in this movie. He's really funny. He actually had a couple lines that made me kind of smile. Couldn't get a chuckle, couldn't get a laugh, but I got a couple smiles out of it. But I'm a film snob. I'm a film snob. I think I might go watch Goodfellas to, cleanse my palate. This is our first attempt at me reviewing a movie. We're not Roadhouse, but we're gonna do more on the Patreon. Carl loves the idea of torturing me with all these horrible MMA movies starring MMA stars, and he really wants me, and I do too. I gotta be honest. I think this sounds like a lot of fun to review the MMA episode of iCarly, which sounds hilarious, where she employs her Sean Strickland type defense, a type hand posture, but we're working on more. And where you're gonna see all that, though? I think this might be one of the few, if not the only one, we do on the YouTube. The rest of them are going to be Patreon exclusives, and that's where you can get access to all the early content we can do. Exclusive content, early content that YouTube took off, just all of it's there. It's awesome. It's great. We have a lot of really cool things we just kind of throwing on there, and we're pumped to keep growing it and keep giving back to these great fans of you guys. As much as I didn't like this movie, I was happy to watch it a second time so I could, have better notes and a more refreshed memory of what happened for you guys. That's what we do. So we do is all for you guys, because we have the best fans in the world here, part of the INC family, and it's just great. We love it here. So that's it for me. I'm Joe with the INC. I'll be back next week to recap some fights. But let me know if you guys like this stuff. This is something a little fun and different. Me and Carl wanted to try out. Maybe I can do some rainy day when no fight weeks. I can do something similar like this. Something me and Carl have been tossing around ideas. And so this is a test. Fingers crossed it works. But As always, we love you guys. Guys and gals. I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you so much for watching.